Yeah, I'll show you how to get it, but you have to be willing to do the work. The Syndicate, it's a motherfucking movement.
You ain't gotta be perfect, long as you down to put the work in. If when it comes to the bullshit you allergic, well, you just might be my kind of person. Welcome to the Syndicate, where real estate wholesaling is what the business is. Ain't gotta talk about it when you out here living it. So if you out here getting it, then welcome to the Syndicate. Well, welcome to the Syndicate. Well, welcome to the Syndicate.
All right, guys, you're listening to another episode of the Real Estate Wholesaling Syndicate podcast. I'm your host, Ky Logue. Today, I'm very excited for the guest we have. He's the Disposition King, Steve Francis. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I'm real excited. This is it's actually my first podcast, man. So
really,
yeah, it's super cool.
I love that, man. I've I don't know why it's one of my favorite things to do. Is but yeah, there's been a bunch of people that have been their first time, and it always seems to go pretty well. So. But yeah, I know we talked about doing wholesaling live. We talked about having you on, and yeah, I'm happy we were finally able to get this set up. So for people who might not know who you are yet, do you want to give us a quick intro and bio on who Steve Francis is?
Yeah, man. Yeah, my name is Steve Francis. The biggest thing so far that a lot of people know me is the one that closes Olympics in 2023 on the disposition side. So we all know, right, RJ Bates is like the king closer, always on the acquisition side of it. But in 2023, they did a Dispo portion of it. So me and a couple other people got on there, ended up doing $92,500 in assignments in under 45 minutes. So that's kind of claim to fame as far as that goes.
I love that, man. So I didn't actually get to catch the Closer Olympics. I heard about it from a bunch of people and heard you killed it. Can you kind of run us through how the disposition side of it works and what it was like?
Yeah. So basically, it's a little different than acquisitions, right? You need a little bit more prep time on the dispo side to get your marketing together and everything like that. So what we did, we all, chose a deal, that we had, and we put the marketing together the day before. We were only allowed to blast out that morning. So, right in the morning, 9 a.m., had a couple blasts trickle out. But we weren't allowed to make any calls until we were up on, the Closers Olympics Live. So I was actually the first one that went on. So it was like super nerve wracking, man. Like the first ever Dispo Closers Olympics, the first guy doing it. So by that time, I mean, the deal that I had chosen I knew it was a hot deal. But with the marketing that we did through Investor Lift, I mean, before I started, I had 10 full price offers on my property before I made any calls.
Wow.
So that helps. Yeah.
So what kind of messages did you send? And I guess tell us after, but was it like the same process you use normally for talking to those buyers beforehand, or what was different about it?
So it was a lot different, right? So marketing wise, it was the same, same exact thing. I did go over, I did blast it a little bit differently. I did a lot more text messages than I usually do because I wanted to get it out in front of as many people as possible, specifically kind of for that event. To be honest, a lot of the stuff I did for that event, I do now anyway because it works so well. So really, it's your text blasts, making sure you shoot your VIPs first in text and in emails, and then kind of I trickled throughout the day, on some other posts. So marketing wise, it was the same. Now, the actual how I talked to the buyers, it was actually a lot different, to be honest with you. So kind of same thing, right? When I went into it, I was in the room with Mike trying to figure out let's game plan how we're going to do this thing. And of course, there's a scorecard, right? This is how you score points. So you have to look at it in that vantage point when you're in a medium like that. Mm-hmm. How do I score as many points as possible? And so I actually rewrote my script the hour before we started. So I'm looking at everything and I'm saying, okay, these are how I score points. How can I take these metrics and how can I move them in a way that flows a conversation that's going to drive this person to want to buy this property?
Mm.
So we did that. And I was like, all right, let's do this, that. All right, this is the order. Let's do it. And then I tested it live on the Closers Olympics. And that's what I run with now, to be honest with you.
I love that, man. So disposition, I feel like a lot of people they get a deal. They don't know what to do with it. I feel like not many people really talk about disposition or what to do with it. And a lot of people say, hey, you have a good enough deal. It's going to move itself. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make when it comes to disposition?
That, right, thinking that if it's a good enough deal, it's going to move itself, right? And I know I think that was the case back, 2020, 2021, where everything was super hot. Like
Mhm.
that's why nobody was really talking about Dispo, right? You get an acquisition, and 9 times out of 10, your buyer's looking at what your ARV is going to be 6 months from now, and they're like, oh, it'll go up 10%, 20%. Like, so I'm good at buying it a little high, but it's different now, right? Interest rates change. That changes the way buy and hold people buy. That changes the way their end buyer buys, right? So you got to think like these people are selling to a retail person that's going to have to use those interest rates, right?
Mhm.
Those interest rates are changing the payment structure. So it forces some people out to where they can't buy. There's not a big, the pool has shrunk for people that can buy those investments. And on the other side, with people that are buying and holding, right, they're still having to deal with those interest rates, and that's going to affect your cash flow.
Right.
Right. Your rents aren't like exponentially going up just because your expenses go up. You know what I mean? Your rents only go so high, and they might creep up, but you still have to contend with your interest rates on that. So I think it's not thinking about that enough,
Mm.
and then being able to pivot from that point. A lot of people had really shallow buyers lists because they were selling to the same 5 people.
Hmm.
It's great, right? You want to build relationships, absolutely, but you also want options. You want to be able to, sell to as many people as possible, and that's really one of the ways that you can get a higher fee and sell for faster. So,
Yeah, no, I love that, man. It's super helpful. So, yeah, just in any example, or even when you said you had 10 full price offers there,
mhm.
even now, if you have, there's multiple buyers, it's a good deal. What do you do? How do you decide who it goes to? Do you play them against each other? How do you get them to come up and get the best offer possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it depends on the deal too, right? Yeah, I think anybody that kind of knows what they're doing in any field, right? The answer is always going to be it depends.
Mm.
So, for example, like on that deal, just the Closers Olympics one, we had 10 full price offers. So it's like, all right, I knew that it was selling. So in the medium of like the competition of it, it was like, all right, this is going to go, and I can't just lay it up for the competition. You know what I mean? I want to like showcase some more things, when talking to buyers. So in that instance, of course, you got to be real transparent. I'm all about transparency when I sell these deals to buyers. So on that, the pitch was kind of like, hey, look, I'm going to be honest with you, Ky. I've got 10 full price offers on this thing right now. This thing is going to go, and it's going to go above asking price. So is that something you're comfortable contending with?
Mm.
And then just done. And then wait for them to answer. Yeah, no, really, that's the top of it. Okay, great. Hey, man, I love that you reached out. Love that you went through this with me. I really appreciate it. I'll definitely hit you on the next one, but this one is going to go a little bit higher. So I'll let you know. I'll keep you informed. But I'd love to get you another one down the road,
Mm.
right? So then that's a way. Like again, on that one, you've got 10 people that are full price offers, and that's not even including the people that inquired about it, the people that were interested in it, the people that made lower offers. Every single person in that field, they're all leads,
Mm.
right? And only one person, the reality is only one person is going to get that deal. So what do you do with the rest of them? Well, you follow up with all of them. You let them know what's going on. You're very communicative with them so that they're like, oh, this guy really sold this deal. He sold it quick. Deal's already assigned. When Steve calls, like, I better be on the ball because I want him to sell me the deal
Mm.
versus the other person that got it. So I was able to drive the price up. There's a couple of strategies that I use to do it, but again, it's all about you being forthright with them. Hey, this is going above. Like, just want to let you know, I got this. It's a hot deal. Everybody wants it. Like, are you willing to play ball in that field? Yeah. Then at that point, you gauge how high they're willing to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So say, for example, we're role playing, you ask me that same question. I say, yeah, I'm still interested. I might be able to come up a little bit. I'm sure. Do they just come out with their highest number there, or how does that conversation go from there?
So there, to be honest, in the closers Olympics, the one I did it live, I actually use a strategy that I use in acquisitions. So I had to like flip the script on my mind because it's kind of backwards, right?
Mhm.
So the strategy that I used, and it's true because Mike was like, man, I might want to buy this. He was seeing all the inquiries come in, and he was like, bro, like, am I missing something?
Yeah.
So I told him it's like this, like in right now, I'm the one selling the property. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's kind of like the same thing when you're in acquisitions, you're on the opposite side of that. You know what I mean? So what my strategy is, what did those people do to me if I'm on acquisitions that I can use to help drive the price up? They drive prices up on wholesalers all the time.
Mm.
what strategies can I use that they do to do the same on the other side, right?
Right.
And you got to temper that with building relationships too, right? You don't just want to like continually just like make your guys, keep paying more, paying more, paying more, right? That's great, but I mean, you want to price things fairly as well, right?
Right.
The reality of this was, I mean, I did have 10 full price offers, so this is going high. You know what I mean? So with that, the strategy that I used, I was basically like, hey, look, my partner is actually seeing all these 10 full price offers, and he's like, man, did I miss something? He's competition is getting the best of him, so he's really interested in this right now. And this is what he told me. He told me that if you can pay, if I can get 150 for this, let it run, like go for it. And I think I had it at 135. I think I know it was 17.5 is what I got above the full price. So I added another 17, almost another assignment fee on top of the assignment fee that we were currently getting anyway. And the way I did that was I did a high price anchor, right? So I said, hey, look, to be honest, the owner of my company is kind of letting competition get to the best of him. He says if I can get 150, he'll let it fly. I mean, do you see yourself doing that? And then just stop. Or is that something you can see yourself doing? Or could you hit that? Could you get close to that? What's going on? And there was a guy that he's like, no, I can't do the 150 because I knew that was a little bit of a stretch, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that was kind of going high because a lot of people, that's a psychology thing, right? And even on the acquisition side, if they feel like they won something on you, then they're a lot more comfortable with their purchase, or a lot more comfortable with selling it at that price,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was kind of that strategy. I kind of asked a little too high on that, anchored it a little too high. And he's like, yeah, man, you know what? I can do 145. And I'm like, oh, okay. Right. That's like 15 grand higher than what I was asking.
Mm.
So now we're cooking now. You know what I mean? So then in that instance, it's kind of like the strategy is almost like on the other side is like, oh, I got to talk to my spouse. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to talk to my partner. I got to talk to, my business person. So in that instance, that's what I used. And I said, hey, look, man, I'm not 100% confident that 145 mark is going to hit it. I know 150 will. Are you absolutely saying you can't do that? Right. So that's my second kind of trial close on that 150. Yeah, man, I can't do the 150. I said, okay, look, man, I am going to go interrupt my partner. And this is something that I use in acquisitions.
Mm.
I'm going to have to go interrupt him. He's in a meeting right now. I'm going to go interrupt him. And if I interrupt him, I'm looking at, potentially saying, hey, look, if I can get him to agree to 147.5, right? If I can get him to agree to 147.5 and say, hey, yeah, go ahead, make it work. I mean, is it worth me interrupting my partner's meeting to get him to approve that? So I'm directly asking you to inconvenience somebody else's day, right? So that's kind of like, if you agree to that, that's more of a buy-in from you. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, yeah, dude, interrupt his day. Like, I want this. Let's go, So I did that. He's like, yeah, it's worth it. Go ahead and ask him real quick. And I said, okay, cool. Well, I know my partner more than anybody. I know he wanted 150. I know he's stubborn as hell. He's a numbers guy. I'm the people person. You'd have hung up 10 minutes ago if you were talking to him. I know the next question he's going to ask me, if he says yes to 147.5, am I going to have a signed assignment by the end of this day and earnest money in escrow? Would I be lying to him if I said yes? So then you stop and see what they say. And then you're kind of, if they say, no, you wouldn't be lying to him, then we're good. I know I got you. And then we're going to move forward. Yeah.
That's huge. Yeah. My, on the acquisition side, my, sales style is very similar. Try to make it more like, we're on the same team, I'm going to go up to bat for you. We're going to get, just make sure we get this, deal done. But, if I do, like you're certain you're going to do it. But no, I love that, man. I think that's a big thing people miss out on, is not treating disposition like sales, but it's still, I mean, you're still selling something. You're still getting a commitment. You're helping someone make a purchase decision.
Mm-hmm. And I would say too that like dispositions is almost like you have to be better in sales than you are in acquisition. In a way, right? Because you're kind of venturing into like the B2B space.
Right.
Right. So you're working with like professionals, and there's a hybrid to it. Like I've noticed, right? Because it still is, there still are emotions involved, and there still are things just like on the acquisition side, but those people are a lot more, business oriented than your, Joe Blow seller out there. You know what I mean?
That's a great point. Yeah. I didn't think of it like that. And I feel like that's true. I feel like a lot of newer wholesalers, and just in general, just people not as experienced as the division side, they kind of get beat up by the buyers, and they're getting talked down on the price, and they're not putting the earnest money in, or just dragging their feet and, kind of taking around. What are some ways if someone's having that happen to them, they feel like they're kind of getting, pushed around or bullied by some of the buyers they're dealing with? What can
Yeah.
they do to avoid that or kind of better?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing on that is to really know your deal. You know what I mean? Every deal is different. To be honest, I mean, some deals are hotter than others, and you'll know that by knowing the numbers. That's the biggest thing. I mean, you have to know your deal's numbers better than your acquisition guy does.
Mm,
I mean, you've got to know the specs of the deal, like 3-2, whatever. What do your comps look like? So, are your comps 3-2s as well? Or your comps 3-1s? Or your comp, you know what I mean? Like, what does that look like? What's the differentiating factor? I always like to think of when I see a deal, okay, what is the worst thing someone can say about this deal? You know what I mean?
mm,
Like, if they're gonna pick it apart, how are they gonna pick it apart, and how can I counter that before I even make a call?
mm,
I mean, so and there are some things like for I'll give you an example. The other day we had one that it was in an area where you can tell they didn't really have central AC. It was like 1950s, 1940s, 1950s area. So none of the houses had central AC, and it was because they didn't have the roof space to add it. You know what I
mm,
mean? So even the flips, there was like one maybe that had central that they added or whatever. So somebody had, they had said, oh, well, I mean, I got to add AC and it's going to cost X, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to run me over on that. I was like, well, to be honest with you, I mean, most of my comps don't even have central AC. Most of my comps have window units. And if I didn't know that, I wouldn't have been able to come back with that. I said, hey, well, I mean, if you really want to go the extra mile, there's enough room in the budget to do like a mini split, which is better than a window unit, but it's not your full AC work. So, I mean, you're saving money there anyway.
mm,
You know what I mean? And she kind of paint that picture
mm.
for them. So it's understanding your deal, understanding your numbers, and being firm. Like same thing on acquisitions. If you have a seller that's coming in hot and they're being
Right.
super rude, like the best way to do it is to like match their energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying be rude to the seller, but match the energy, right? And just stop it. Stop that like interaction from like them bullying you in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
and then start to bring it down from there. You know what I mean? Just
100%. Yeah, I see. Funny. We actually last night, so we have Mastermind, the Syndicate, and we have a newer guy just getting started, and he had his first conversation with the seller, and he had a difficult seller, and basically we had that same exact conversation. Like, really, the only way to handle it, or how I handle it at least, is you gotta match that energy, and then
Mhm.
they're either gonna back down or they're gonna tell you to fuck off, and but either way, I mean, you weren't gonna get anywhere with them if you didn't have that
Mhm.
tough.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I call it if you're going to lose on your own terms,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, that's the way to do it for sure.
I love that, man. That's super helpful, man. And I think it's yeah, I think that people are getting a lot of value from that, man. So I appreciate you being so upfront and sharing. But yeah, man, I'm really excited to have you speak at our event. I mean, it's literally just next week. It's June 5th here in San Antonio. Man, super excited. So we got both the winners of the Closer Olympics. We have you speaking. We have RJ Bates speaking. We have a mutual friend, Anthony Hernandez,
Mhm.
Cassie DeHaas, myself. So man, I'm super excited to have you there and share the stage with you. What are some of the things you're going to go over at the event?
Yeah. So, well, first off, I'm super excited to be there too. That's going to be great. This will be the second time I've been on a stage, but the first time it's like me like speaking. So it'll be really cool. I want to bring a lot of value to the people out there because just like we kind of went over before, it's not too often you hear somebody talking about Dispo.
Mm,
Right. So I feel like that's going to be kind of fresh in some people's minds and something that people will be leaning on learning. What I'm going to go over there is my process, my 5-step process on what does that conversation look like, right? So what I like to do is I came up, and again, this is the thing I came up with in the Closers Olympics, right? It's almost like a skeleton to where, you can throw your own style on top of it. Because what I don't want to do is say like, here's a script, and that's still valuable, but here's a script, say these words exactly, right?
mm,
Because it is so fluid.
mm,
There are so many different variabilities and everything, but I want to at least give a scaffold for these are the things that you should be going over on every call in this particular order to kind of maximize your results. And then really and I think a good thing too is like buyer's list, right? Learning how to build that buyer's list and what does that look like? Because with the way that the industry's going, as far as like what people see content wise, right? You got to think they want to see a deal close, and they want to see like RJ Bates go on there and just call one person, and then boom, he's got a contract, right? He does that all the time, but that's not normal for everyone. You
mm,
know what I'm saying? So it's like the same thing on Dispo, right? With the closers Olympics and stuff, it was like, hey, we want you to 45 minutes. We want you to close, and get a signed assignment. that's still not par for a course on how Dispo typically works. You know what I mean? There may be a lot of people that want to go look at a property, that want to go, take their certain time with it. Now, you want to push it as much as possible, right? You want to get the best result you can in the quickest time that you can, but it's also kind of demystifying that stuff, right? What I don't want is like some people getting in there and seeing people do this and seeing me close, $92,000 in 45 minutes. And then, they go try to do it and, they didn't close the deal their first hour and they think they're a failure. You know what I'm saying? That's also saying like, hey, this is what the process looks like. This is what it should look like. This is what it could look like. Don't beat yourself up if it's not, going the perfect way that you think it needs to go. You're still taking the steps to push the conversation forward and get that check at the end of the day.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
So what did you do? When did you get into real estate? What did you do before that? Did you have a sales background?
Sort of. Yes and no, right? So my journey's kind of been, I like to tell people like my life is kind of like Forrest Gump. Like, have you ever seen that movie where cool shit happens around that guy? Like, it's kind of like that, right? So I was in banking for about 7 years. And at the tail end of that, like I had switched over to a new bank. And within about 6 months of me being in this new bank, I got promoted 3 times. So I was on my latest promotion and it was like kind of like a hybrid role. So I had already known how to do half of the position anyway. So during that part of training, I was like, I'm going to see what my next promotion is. So I'm like looking through the portal and stuff, and I have all the access now because I became a manager at that point. And I was looking and saying, okay, well, I want to do this next. And I'm looking at, the salary on that. And I was like, shit, man, it's not much more than what I'm making now. And I know the responsibility of a role like that is like so much higher. So then I was like, well, let me go a rung higher on the corporate ladder and see what that looks like. And I was like, damn, dude, these people really don't make a whole lot of money. It's crazy. So it was kind of like a quarter life crisis mode, right? I'm trying to like envision my future at this company, and I wasn't seeing it, right? And I remember I had a buddy, a guy that I knew that was flipping. He'd do like maybe 5, 6 a year, but he'd make 50,000 on them. So he's living a good life. You know what I mean? He did what he wanted. He took as many vacations as he wanted. He did whatever. So I was like, all right, he's doing that through real estate. I remember through banking, like I've had some realtors come in and post checks or deposit checks. And I was like, hey, what do you do? You know what I mean? You always ask that question. Oh, I'm in real estate. So that kind of piqued my interest. So like I said, it's kind of like quarter life crisis mode. And when I was going through it, I was looking through a bunch of stuff like drop shipping, all this other stuff that wasn't where I was at, right? There had to be something better out there. And a position opened up. I was on Indeed like constantly. So I saw a position that said it was sales for a flipping company. So I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, that'll be my way in. Right. Because at that point I didn't have the money or the time to really do like the real estate license courses. So I applied for that job. And oddly enough, it's funny. Like I said, quarter life crisis. So I got fired, right, from my position at the bank 2 weeks after I had applied for that job. So the next day I hit up my buddy and I was like, hey bro, hey, can I work for you for a little bit? Like, let me help you with your houses. So next day I was literally like hanging sheetrock, learning how to hang sheetrock. I put on, lunchtime came, put on my button up shirt, put on my blazer, and I went to that company. And I was like, hey, here's my resume. Like, I already put it in, but I wanted you guys to get a face to a name. And the guy was like, yeah, cool, whatever, dude. It is what it is. I Googled and learned the name of the hiring manager, went back, asked for him by name, and they ended up setting up an interview with me where they kind of bait and switch. They were like, hey man, we filled that position already, but like you wouldn't stop coming over. So we have a position open for someone that's going to buy houses. Like, that's something you'd be interested in? And I was like, hell yeah. So I did that for the next 2 years of where I would go out and buy houses for that company to flip.
So yeah, the reason I asked, man, I appreciate you sharing too. Yeah. Is I can tell you you're really good at sales. I've been in sales since I was 18.
Nice.
Before that illegally. But yeah, always been in sales. But yeah, so I tell you nice that usually I talk to people, I can tell right away if they're, know what they're talking about. How did you get good? I mean, how long did it take you to get good, and what steps did you take to get to the level you're at?
Yeah. It took me a while, man, to be honest with you. And it's again, just for the people out there that like think that it could be an easy process or it's natural to everybody. It was not natural to me at all. Like when you're at a bank, right? You're supposed to sell like accounts, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I literally had no idea how to do it. I'd be like, hey, Kai, you don't have a savings account, man. Do you want one? Like that's literally how I would sell. Like at the
Yeah.
beginning, terrible. Um, for me, it was a lot of like content, right? So I consumed early in the early days, it was a lot of like Grant Cardone content and
Mhm.
like a lot of the Jordan Belfort stuff, people that were selling. So I would get like, okay, you got to ask questions. It's got to make sense. So it went from like, hey, Kai, do you want a savings account? To like, hey, Kai, real quick question. While I had you here, man, what are you currently doing to save? What are you doing, to build your credit? You know what I mean? So the
Mhm.
tonality is what I got from I think Jordan Belfort and that. And then with the real estate stuff, I have some distinct memories, man, of like getting my head pounded into the ground, right, trying to
Mhm.
buy these houses. And there was a point in time, like the best way that I can describe what I did for the company where I was buying for them, I was like a used car salesman that bought your house.
Mhm.
So I did the four. I don't know because you were in car sales, right?
Yeah.
You guys ever do the four square?
Yeah. The
Yeah, yeah.
payments.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I
Mhm.
would have to do the four square on buying your house, like,
Mhm.
the same thing. So what they would tell me is like, hey, our very first offer, like they called it, I want you to peel them off the ceiling,
Mhm.
which is like your first offer. If you get your first offer, we didn't offer low enough.
Right.
So I want them to stand up and try to leave and get mad, and you got to talk them down, and that happened a lot. Like people get
Mhm.
upset, they stand up, they try to leave, and then that's when I learned like, okay, body language matters because if you stand up and I stand up with you, that's me accepting that you're gonna leave.
Right.
If you stand up and I sit down and I just look at you, I'm like, okay, and you know what I mean? That body language kind of it changes the dynamic a little bit.
Yeah.
So little things like that, man. I remember a lady that was I couldn't get a price out of her.
Mhm.
I couldn't do it. And I would go back, and back then I didn't know what an ARV was. I didn't know how to run my numbers. I didn't know anything. I would just go back to my manager, and he would give me a number to then present.
Mhm.
Right. So I was monkey see, monkey do. Right, going back, getting the number, coming back. Hey, this is the number. So I had very little control. So the guy was like, "Hey, man, I'm not giving you a number until you tell me what you want." It's like,
Mhm.
go back in. All right, and I would try to get her to tell me the number. She's, no, no, no. You let me know. Okay, go back. Hey, bro, she's not telling me. I don't care, man. Get back in there.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you a number until you tell me what she wants. So it got to the point where I was like, look, lady, he's not, just make a number up. Like, this
Yeah.
guy's not giving me nothing. I don't even know what we're going to offer you. And she was like, you know what? I'm done. This is ridiculous. Like, you guys don't know what you're doing here. I'm leaving. And she got up and I was walking out with her, like, no, ma'am, come back. Blah, blah, blah. That feeling after I was sitting at my desk by myself after that, I was like, dude, I got to figure this out.
Mhm.
Like, how could I have this? So I sat there for the next hour and went through the conversation. What did I say? How does she respond? How could I have responded better to that? And then the next one I would try. And then, you know what I mean? I would it almost leapfrog my experience. I got to a point where I would play a game with people where in negotiating, because I did this all live. So none of
Mhm.
this was phone sales. It was like you're sitting across a desk from me and we're going over it. So I got to a point where I was like, I'm not letting you leave until you go down in your price. Even if I know we're not gonna meet at a price, I know I'm not gonna buy this house. But I'm not gonna say, okay, we're done here until you go lower.
Mhm.
And that's how I would learn different like word tracks on how to get you down, how to alter that price. So it's just practice, repetition. To be honest, I'd get mad at myself because it didn't work. So I would have
Yeah.
to rewrite my scripts.
I love that. Yeah, I see. I'm like picturing myself back at being Seacoast Mazda, it was called, as a Mazda dealership I was working at when
Yeah.
I was 18. But yeah, no, it's too funny. I remember like how like stressful it was, like going back, not knowing. So I thought I was hot shit because I worked at a call center, like a super
Mhm.
sketchy call center in a warehouse, my first sales job, and I crushed it because we were selling like $7 products, and
Right.
it was yeah. And but yeah, so but then I had to like do real sales and like sell cars. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I didn't know shit. And then there's no training, and then it
Yeah,
was
dude.
literally figure it out and sink or swim. And then all the other salespeople hate you because you're there taking their deals. And so yeah,
Yeah.
it's but yeah, I remember like how stressful it was going up and having to go back to the manager's desk and like be like, hey, they said this, and like fucking like like fucking go back there, dude.
Yeah. Well, that's when I was like, man, it's a lot better if I'm like, hey, we're on the same team, man. Like we're
Mhm.
against us against that guy.
Right.
Like let's figure something out. You know what I mean? So I was like, it's a lot better being collaborative versus like the other dynamics where like they're talking down on you or you're talking down on them. Like it's better to be equal. So that's when I found
100%.
that out. I was like, shit, man, this is a lot smoother of a ride if we do it this way.
No, I'm the same way. Yeah, because I mean, it's almost combative. Like if you're like, they think you're the head decision maker and there's nobody else behind you, and it's like,
Hmm.
like you're the dick, you're the bad guy, and like
Right.
yeah, it's hard to kind of get anywhere. But no,
Yeah.
I think that's huge, man. So man, I love it. No, I think that's huge, man. Yeah, I've done big card on you, and did done all
Nice.
the straight line system and all that stuff too. So yeah, I take a lot of that too in my sales styles. If there's some, yeah, I'm all about taking different things and from different people and then putting my own spin on it and testing it
Well,
out. And
that's the best thing, man, is like hearing somebody else do something. That's why like I had a chance when was it? A couple months ago, I think, is I watched RJ Bates do a Dispo live and I was like,
Mhm.
shit, I want to see this because I only know what I do. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, what if I could take something from this guy that, it may be something menial, something small, but it gets to that point to where like you hear enough people do this and you're like, oh, I like that word track. I like what he said.
Mm.
Take that and spin that and use that. You know what I mean? So I think it's real important to at least like develop that mindset about sales. Like, you always have that white belt mentality and like I'm willing to learn from anybody. And even like a lot of the seminars and stuff when people go to these events, like very much like the Wholesale Syndicate Live, right? There's gonna be some people there that like they know they make X amount of money a month and all that stuff, but one thing that is said by somebody on that stage could revolutionize their whole entire business. And that's happened to me multiple times.
Yeah, same. That's what I go to events for. Is like I'm looking
Like,
for those one, two, maybe three at the most gold nuggets. If you try to take everything and you're like, I'm gonna
yeah,
do it all, and you're not gonna do shit, and you're gonna
yeah, no,
go,
absolutely.
yeah, and you're gonna go to the next event and then wonder why you're not like next year, and you're not gonna wonder why you're not any closer. But if you can look like go there, know what your problem is in your business, like be
Mhm.
aware enough to know like, hey, these are the things I'm working on, these are my roadblocks, and these are
Yeah.
like the things, and like when you have that in front of your mind, I don't know what you want to call it, whether it's God or whatever, the universe, like somehow I always get those gold nuggets that are exactly what I need. And
Hmm.
sometimes it can be a completely different industry, it can be whatever, but like when you're aware and like you go looking for it, you end up finding it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It finds you sometimes, man.
Mhm.
Just pop up in front of you. You're like, oh, damn, I never considered that, right? That's why it's
100%.
important to go to as many events as possible. It's important to network and watch people do things. Like, shit, I'll watch anybody do Dispo and see if I can get something from them. You know what I mean? And vice versa. Like, I welcome it. Hey, listen to me, do what I do, and you know what I mean, take what you can, and hopefully it'll help your business moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. I love that, man. So yeah, so going back to Dispo a bit. So so are you focused on I know you guys do deals all over. Are you more just focused on certain markets now, or are you guys still focusing all over? What's your strategy as far as
Yeah,
what
it's
markets are?
a little bit of both, man. And not really by design, right? So I think like here at the office more so, it's like let's focus on, San Antonio. Let's go real deep in San Antonio, and we still have the capability because we have investor lift and we got a pretty high level, so we have the
Mhm.
capability to do wherever. You know what I mean? It's just you know the more you do it, you're like, man, you almost have to start over every time
Right.
you get a deal in BFE, Georgia. You know what I mean? It's like all right, I have zero buyers list here. Let me go start over the process and do this, right?
Mhm.
Versus if you have a deep buyers list in a couple markets or one market, then you kind of know more or less what to do. So for the most part, the stuff from the office will do that. Now, Mike and them, they'll get some JVs and they'll be, in different states and things like that. So we have the capability to do it. And with the process that I've got, like I've trained and the other Dispo agent on it too. So like she knows like you can use that anywhere. It's just kind of going through the motions of building that buyers list every time, which is the tough thing when you're doing nationwide on that kind of level.
Mhm.
For me, like I said, like with the closers Olympics thing, it really did put me in a space where there are people that reach out to me, for JVs in certain areas. So like, it's just kind of the season where I have to JV a lot. You know what I mean? And I'm cool with it. I love it. Because it keeps me sharp. As far as that goes. So like me personally, there are a lot of JVs. Like 2 weeks ago, we did one in Atlanta, Georgia for 34 grand. A week before that, we were in Beaumont for 20. Yeah. So it's kind of a little bit everything.
Yeah, I love that. So, say you're in a new market, and it's kind of for me, it's always a struggle in a new market. Like I said, it's starting over from scratch. Someone has a deal, they're listening to this, they're brand new, they got a deal. What are the first steps they should take to start dispoing that property?
Yeah. That's going to depend on what type of technology and stuff you have access to, right? So obviously, right, if you have investor lift, post that bad boy on InvestorList. That's gonna be the kind of the holy grail as far as that goes. And then what level do you have on InvestorList if you do, right? And that's going to change some features and stuff like that. I use it heavily because it's kind of a cheat code in some of these areas. Now, I understand if you're first deal and everything like that, you may not have access.
Yeah, they got nothing in this scenario.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got nothing, man. What I tell you to do is first and foremost Facebook, right? So Facebook that still works, right? I still sell deals on Facebook too sometimes, right? Facebook for sure. If you do have prop stream, that's a big one. Prop
Now, are
stream.
you would for yeah, sorry, not fade off, but so on Facebook, do you recommend, do they post the whole deal? They post all the details, the address, everything, or do you kind of do more like bait type posts, like who are trying to find the buyers from Facebook first, and then
Yeah, kind of a little mix of it, right? So I'll cycle between like 2 or 3 different like types of posting where maybe like I'll go find a group and it'll be like hey, who's buying fire damage houses in this place? You know what I mean? And those people will come up. That's kind of more your bait type thing, right? Or who's buying 2 3s in this subdivision? And it'll just be like the words, you know what I mean? Now, if you're gonna do the full post, I'll do maybe 3 4 photos. Main picture of the house, right? Front picture of the house, couple bedrooms, bathroom for sure. Any features that you think may set this thing apart. And then of course you do your specs, right? So, you can, write your copy as far as that goes, send it in. What I see a lot of people doing, I kind of like it, right, is where they almost do like the split photo where like the main picture's up top and then your copy's right in the middle and you got the pictures below it. But that's cool too. That's work. So you can do it a couple ways. Pricing wise, now that's gonna be up to you, for the main part. That's a split test thing, right? There's mentalities that make sense. I don't think I post price. I'll stay under this price, maybe like, oh yeah, we're selling this under $100,000. That kind of is kind of a buzzword because you want your copy to like attract people too. So, but that's pretty much most of it on Facebook.
I love it. And then you said, so then you go to prop stream.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So prop stream, the way that I always use, and I do this with comps too, man, is like I'll go as tight as I can, and then if I don't find results that I like, you kind of have to expand out a little bit. So same thing with prop stream. Like I'll zoom in. Like let's say you have prop stream, no buyers, brand new market. Like I'm going and I'm doing the little shape, the polygon, and I'm zooming out and doing a reasonable amount to where I say, okay, these are probably close to the same condition houses, the same type of houses. So I'll do that. And I'll look for I'll go and do the filters. I would say cash buyers that own it for max a year and that are corporate. Now this is different because I can go in real deep on this, man.
Yeah.
That's like your blanket, like, hey, I'm in a San Antonio, I'm in an MSA, like a major market, because you're going to find people, you're going to find corporations, right? So you click on it, and of course, like, because here's what happens to me. I'll click on something, and it'll be like Fannie Mae. I'm like, nah, okay, that's a foreclosure. That's not what I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for, Ky Buys Houses, LLC. You know what I'm saying? So you find that, and then you have to skip trace that. So this is another thing. Skip tracing LLCs isn't really a thing. So I would take that LLC. I'm gonna go put that into open corporates. I'm gonna go find out who the registered agent is. I can go deep in this too, but I'm just gonna give you like bare bones.
We go deep, man. Yeah, I try to just give as much tactical info as we can, man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I'd go in there, right? And the deep thing is like sometimes you'll see like I know okay, there's an address on McLeod Boulevard in Las Vegas, right? That you see. Now, have you come across that at all?
No, is it it's like a virtual office you're talking about, or just
pretty much. So the one in McLeod Boulevard in Las Vegas, that's the Anderson Group. So those guys are like lawyers that are designed to hide your stuff, so you can't find the person. So there's ways to do it apart from that, but let's just say you're on open corpus. Hey, Ky Logue is actually this is how I found you, dude.
Yeah.
Phone number. So you go for the first. That's funny. So you go to open corporates and. Hey, Ky Logue here. This is the address. All right, cool. Let me go ahead and skip trace the address and see if I can find Ky's phone number. And now you're cold calling Ky, right? So that script is I go over this in my process, right? That's kind of like the intro part of it on this. It would be more so like, hey, Ky, this is Steve. Reason why I'm reaching out is I noticed you're a pretty active buyer in the San Antonio market, man. And I have a property that is real close to one you guys already bought. Are you guys still looking? So you're still kind of prodding for that information. Like you might not be, you might be. So that would be the process for that. Now, let's say you don't find anything, right? You don't find anything. Ah, shit. What do I do? Well, now I'm going out to the zip code. So, okay, what zip code is my property in? Let me go to the zip code. Who are all the corporate buyers in the zip code? Now I've got those guys because I know they buy relatively in that close area.
Mm.
If you're in a small market, still not many hits, then just hit the city. You know what I'm saying? Now you hit the city, now you're good to go. Now, um, doing that, you should get some spillover. Like if you're close to a big city, you'll start to see like the mailing addresses are in that big city. So you know these guys are
Mm.
really from Dallas, but they're doing it in what is it, Mesquite or something. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So you'll start to figure that out. So now you got Dallas buyers too. You know what I mean? So you got to use your, you got to take everything you can if you don't have any resources to really like get going.
Yeah.
Um, if you're in a smaller market, to be honest, what I'll do is if it's like too small to where like it's in BFE middle of nowhere,
Mm.
I'll go back on PropStream and I'll do the same thing, except that I'll add in personal buyers. So if like you bought it under Ky Logue, right?
Mm.
But what I'm looking for is like, okay, I want to see Ky if he buys if he owns 3 to 10 properties.
Mm.
Now you're looking for your landlords that are
Mm.
just your onesie twosie moms and pop landlords. In those smaller towns, a couple of those exist, right? So then I'd hit those guys up.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. So you're just saving the individuals for last, and you're going through and doing the
Mhm.
thing, and you're doing that all yourself, or you just really going to open corporate and you're searching them. Is there like do you prioritize the list somehow, or like is there certain criteria like, hey, these ones are the ones I'm going to try to do the most research on?
Yeah, I would say, it, again, depends on your area, right? And what
Mm.
results you're getting from those searches that I just talked about. So if you're getting a lot with the corporate stuff, I mean, you could go the extra step. I don't do this all the time, but sometimes I do. If I start seeing your name like multiple times, I'll throw
Mm.
you in like the county records and
Mm.
just see how many you're closing and see what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And if you're a big buyer, then I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna flag this guy. I want to talk to Ky. Like Ky
Yeah.
bought, you know, 7 properties last month and 8 the month before and 5 the month before that. Like this dude's moving stuff. So let's get with him. Let's figure out what he wants, what he's looking to buy. And depending on what your team, like if you're a solo person, like one of the good, and I know it's kind of counterproductive to some of the stuff I said before, right? But it still rings true, right? If Ky wants a 3-1 at least that's 1,100 square feet or more, built in the 60s or newer, then like, and he's buying 7, 8 a month, that's what I'm looking for. You know
Mm.
what I mean? I'm looking for that because 9 times out of 10, if Ky's looking for that, most of the other buyers around town are looking for that too.
Mm.
So if I put it in front of Ky and Ky doesn't want it, okay, great. Now, okay, Ky, why don't you want this deal? Okay, I don't want this deal because it is a 3-1, but the third bedroom's a converted garage. Like I don't really mess with converted garages. Cool. Now you're spilling into the other people that you see around too. And then you're
Mm.
getting feedback from those guys. Oh, this guy will buy a converted garage. Great. Now I flag him in my CRM as like, he'll buy a converted garage. I have a new property that comes up that's converted garage. Now I can shoot it to him.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's all about like building your data set of buyers that are buying. What are they looking for? Hey, you passed up on this deal. Great. Why? Now I know that I shouldn't shoot you these deals. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Sometimes like I've tested people on that. Like they're like, oh no, I don't buy X, Y, and Z. And I just sold the deal and they saw it and it was like super hot and they'll hit me up about it. And I'm like, bro, you just told me you don't buy these.
Mm.
Oh, it's a good enough deal, man. I'll buy whatever.
Yeah.
So you kind of like, you test them out.
I love that. And then I know people have different opinions of this. Some of the solo operation, they wait till they have the deal before they start building the buyers list, or should they start being proactive in the beginning?
Yeah, man. I think that depends too. It makes sense if let's say you're brand new and you're like, all right, I want to learn as much as I can about it, and I'm going to networking events.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense to find a buyer at a networking event like that. Hey, and a lot of people, to be honest, if you're 100, like if you're honest and you're authentic and you're like, hey, Ky, look, man, I see you at these events all the time. Like I know you're buying properties. I'm just starting out. I'd love to find something, that you would buy. Like, what are you looking for, man?
Mm.
And if you have enough of those conversations, you can almost create a little Venn diagram of like, hey, I got 10 people that will buy this type of deal. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And then at that point, you can choose I mean, to be honest, I'd rather go find it myself, but
Mm-hmm.
you can choose if you JV with somebody on it or not, or something like that. You'll start to build buyers that way. Also, though, there's a mentality that I have too. Like right now, me personally, I'm kind of pivoting more on the JV side.
Mm-hmm.
And in certain markets, I'll take anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And the reason why is even if I look at this deal, I'm like, man, this deal's really not that hot, man. I'm not really crazy confident about moving this. I'll take it because I can put it in front of actual buyers and
Mm.
get feedback and learn their processes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can do either or. And it really depends on what position you're in.
Hmm.
Uh, I think both make sense, but I think that they both come with being authentic and not trying to be like, oh, like I'm the shit. I've sold blah 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 blah. Or, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like just be honest, man. Like, hey, I'm just getting started in this market. I'll even do that now,
Hmm.
where I'll look at a deal and like, hey, this would be a killer deal, and if it was in San Antonio, but in Idaho, it's not. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I'll have people shit on the deal constantly. And if I get enough people that say the same thing, I'm like, ah, fuck, okay, like I know
Right.
that's good feedback, right?
Hmm.
And I'll tell them, I say, hey, look, to be honest, like this isn't a market I really get a lot in. This is
Hmm.
kind of fell in my lap. So I do want to get your feedback on it, see what you thought, and kind of go that vantage point to build that relationship with those guys.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I do the same thing. And yeah, I feel like when you're just real, I feel like when I first started, I tried to be like, I'm like, oh, I'm talking to buyers. I got to be like, my text and my messages are going to be like real professional, like, hello, sir. Like, not that bad, but like to exaggerate.
Hello, Adam. Like,
Yeah, right. But yeah, once I started to be like, hey, yeah, sorry about some flips, like, just try more conversational and like, just being
mhm.
myself and like the results were way better.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Because people can read that. Like they're like a lot of people do business with me because like they can tell that I'm not bullshitting you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I've had buyers even say like they'll ask me like, "Hey, is this have foundation issues?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't bought the property, so from what I'm hearing, they haven't mentioned anything. No one's mentioned anything to me right now." And they'll say like, "Hey, man, like I trust that you're giving me all the information you have."
Mhm.
That's important to have buyers trust you and to do right by them. Another thing, man, is being easy to work with. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I've dealt with people here and there that are they're kind of position their dispo like, oh, bro, someone's gonna buy it. Like if you don't buy it, someone will. You know what I mean? And that'll burn somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You burn a good buyer that way. Uh,
Mhm.
just in the way that cause I don't have any ego and the whole peeling them off the ceiling for my first job where it was like the car salesman thing
Mhm.
that helped me. Like I don't have any ego about anything
Yeah.
at all. Like I've had calls where people talk shit to me, and by the end of that call, me and them are laughing about something
Mhm.
because you know what I mean. They feel bad because I just wasn't mean back to them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's great. I love that. It's always been one thing I struggle with sales. Yeah, I take it personally sometimes.
Oh yeah,
I've gotten
yeah. Dude,
fired
it's
from a few
hard
jobs when I
sometimes,
was
man.
younger.
It's hard. I think I don't know. I think it's easier. On the dispo side, it's a little. The reason why I say it's a little bit different on the dispo side is because
Mhm.
like when you're dealing with that one off seller, it's like, bro, I'm never gonna talk to you again.
Right.
Like, whatever, dude. Get out
Yeah.
of here. But if you're on the flip side on Dispo, I'm like, okay, like, could I be burning a good buyer?
Right.
You know what I mean, I could do repeat business with this person. So like, let me try to navigate this. And if I could, maybe they're having a bad day, or maybe you have those people that are like, just send it to me, man. And if I like it, I'll respond. And if I don't, then I don't want it. Like those guys are actually good buyers
Yeah.
because they know what they want. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great tip for sure. And yeah, I definitely got better as I got older, but definitely still a struggle. Not
Oh,
taking it
dude, yeah, no,
personally
I
sometimes.
get you, dude. Because I learned how, dude. When I was doing what I was telling you before, when I would say, hey, look, you're not. My mentality was like, you're not leaving until you get low on your offer. I would say the wildest stuff to people. Like there was one guy I remember. I asked him. I mean, we were comping a property, and he's like, oh, this one sold for 140. I want 140 for mine. And I'm like, dude, this one was 10 years newer than yours. And I mean, look at this condition versus yours. Are you telling me it's the same thing, man? Like, where are you getting that 140 from? And he's like, well, to be honest, it was a mobile home on 3 acres, right? So
Mm.
this guy's like, well, to be honest, man, you get to keep the chickens and the goats. And then I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, listen, man, you got a 3-2 brick home. This is how many people I'll sell that to. Now you got a mobile home on some lots on a couple acres. That's how many people I have to sell it to. Now
Mm.
you telling me I got to sell this property to old McDonald? And last I heard, he's already got a farm and he's not looking for another one.
That's
Like,
great.
so it's like I've definitely had my fair share, and it's sometimes it's funny, like some of the stuff that I think is saying to these people, but yeah,
100%. Honestly, I feel like sometimes like you do have to do that. Like it's most of the time, like especially as I'd go, like I'd always like, I was more desperate as a salesman. I only got so many leads at certain jobs, and like
I,
I would push it as hard as I could, and like people would be surprised, I'd bring them back around. Like they're
mhm.
not all the time. Most of the time, not. Most of the time, they tell you to go fuck off and die. But
Yeah,
every
so
time, it
you'll
always
get
feels
a couple
great
of
when you get
months,
that Hail
dude.
Mary.
Yeah, you'll get a couple of months doing that, man, and it's worth it. So
Mm-hmm.
you got
100%.
the rents in for sure.
Yeah. So back to so like you said, you find someone, you find an LLC, say you're in a small town, there's only so many buyers.
Right.
Like if what do you do after that? If you can't find it, if they have like you can't find who owns the company, if you can't find the registered agents, just one everyone's using.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you can do to find that, or do you just move on?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example with the McLeod Boulevard one. Like I know because I've done it enough times that that's a registered agent out of Vegas or whatever.
Mhm.
So here's what you can do. This is an extra step, and it's pretty tedious to be honest with you. I'll go to public records and I'll take their LLC and I'll put
Mhm.
it in public records and I'll look for them as a grantor, right? Which
Mhm.
means they sold the property, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes in public records, in deeds, the grantor's address is listed, like
Mm.
on the deed somewhere. So sometimes you'll get them if they're real smart, they will they'll put the same address, but some people don't. I mean, you're in your day to day running through your thing. You said, hey, these guys are going to protect me. They're going to keep me anonymous, and then you're not thinking about it in their day to day. So
Yeah.
in that deed, when you're the grantor, oftentimes there's an alternative address. So then I just take that address, I'll run it through, and this is funny, man. I actually use True People Search all the time.
Yeah.
I'll run it through a reverse address on True People Search, and if your name that's on the registered agent pops up on that thing, we're good to go. Like I know
Yeah.
that's you. Gotcha. I've even gone so far as to um, I found a deed where I thought that it might have been this person's like personal residence. And I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know, man. They got a common name. I split screened it, pulled up both of the deeds, and went to go to the signature line to match the signature. And I was
Mm.
like, yep, same guy. All right, let's go. And now I'm attacking that one.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. There's a lot of things, man. Like there's always a way. There's always a way. And if that doesn't work, man, if you can find a property that they sold on the market, call the realtor.
Mhm.
Realtor was reach out to the realtor. You know what I mean? And hey, can you give me contact with these people? Like I got a deal, you know?
Yeah. And then do you work some out with the realtor, like let him know he's going to take care of you on the back end, or do you?
Yeah, for sure. I always make it with realtors and stuff like that. I always want to make it a point to that they know they're going to get taken care of. You know what
Right.
I mean? And again, it depends on the deal, right? If I'm making 60 grand on the deal, like we'll figure out something to cut them in on it. But
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, what I prefer is be like, hey, look, like if you can add whatever you want on top of it, like I don't care if
Mhm.
it's 10 grand, like do your thing. If you can get them to do it, right? And then some realtors like it, some realtors don't, and that's where I say being easy to work with is important, right? Understand what your prospective fee is going to be. Understand what the value is in use like getting it sold at all,
Yeah.
right? You might have to lose some to the realtor. It's more valuable getting it sold. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? If you're having that trouble doing it. So
100%.
talk to them, make sure they know they're going to get taken care of. As far as that goes, and usually they can sense if you're about business. And
Yeah. No, I love that, man. It's super helpful, man. You've been giving a bunch of great tips, man. I really appreciate it. Last thing I want to ask you about before I let you go. I said, I know you mentioned you do a lot of JVs. I know we've JV'd together, and a bunch of my friends are JV with you, and everyone else loves working with you. But before I JV'd with you, when I first started out, I JV'd, especially other markets. When I started out, I JV'd with a lot of the wrong people and made a lot of mistakes when I first started out. What advice would you have for someone about choosing a JV partner? And then I'll have a follow-up question after that. But yeah, so if someone, did you have any advice for someone if they have a deal and they're trying to JV with someone?
man, I would okay. Here's the thing. I would JV with somebody that if you're starting out and you're brand new, right? Look for somebody that has something to lose,
Mm.
right? And what I mean by that is someone that's got that reputation. Like, let's say you're running a RIA, or you're running something, like a big thing, like we would do, right? I
Hmm.
mean, to be honest, if we gave a bad experience, you know what I mean? That's something that we have to lose, right? Versus you're kind of random person that's out there and they're just trying to get things from you and stuff like that. That's a big thing, right? Look for someone that's got a reputation to maintain, because that's obviously important to them. If that's important to them, then it's important to them to treat you right. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Even if the deal doesn't move, right? If you're getting the feedback that you need, if you're getting, hey, this is what I'm hearing, could you get a price drop? Maybe we can work it that way. If they're being fair with you and all the paperwork and everything like that. I think doing that, talking to people enough, making sure you trust them, maybe swing by somebody's office. There's some people that have done that. They've spent a lot of time with us before JVing. You know what I
Mm.
mean? They'll come to our events. We'll talk to them. I mean, I've given advice to people on how to do certain things for a while, and there's a point where there's an experience gap, right? And
Mm,
it is what it is, where, I can tell you how to do something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can go do it the same way that I can,
mm,
right? Just because I put in a lot more reps, or someone else has put in those reps, you know what I mean? So someone that's willing to kind of give you a little bit of information just kind of for nothing, you know what I mean? And not to say that like I'll spend hours with somebody, to do that, but like, I never mind giving somebody some advice on this. Like a lot of the stuff I told you here, this is what I do on a day-to-day basis, man. Like if someone really listens to it and puts it into effect, like they can sell a deal quick.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So things like that, right? Look for people that you can trust. It's hard to gauge that at first. You might have to get burned a couple times. I
Mm,
always say, um, and this is with sales in general, right, and everything else. Like you have to be willing to look dumb, but you also have to. What was the best way to put it? You also have to have this edge on you to where you refuse to stay dumb. Does
mm,
that make sense?
yeah.
So like, it's happened to me, man. When I first started, I JV with the wrong people. I think we
Mm,
all do, but
yeah.
you have to learn from that experience. Like, okay, what did this person like? What was the context here? Like, obviously not this guy again. Let me find somebody else. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Just look for the reputation too. I mean, that's
Yeah. No, that's a great point, because I feel like people underestimate how small the real estate community is.
oh, dude, yeah, it's crazy.
Hmm. Then it's wild. Even just in your local market, just everywhere. I mean, it's a lot smaller than you think. And I mean, you only get one reputation, and it takes a lifetime to build, and takes a one
5 minutes.
day or one bad decision. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh.
But no, I love that, man. And then so on the flip side, as somebody JVs or someone, how do you, most of the deals I get are junk that people send. How do you evaluate, someone sends you a deal, what's your process? Like, hey, is this one I want to spend time on or not? Because I mean, you only get so much time in the day.
Right, for sure. Depends on the market, right? If it's in San Antonio, I'll just run it through the MLS, go through my
Hmm.
comps and run my numbers and all that. And then again, time frame is a big thing too. Like there's some people, and this is like something you don't want to do on
Yeah.
on the other side of the JV thing. They'll be like, "Hey, bro, I got this
3
deal.
days.
It's got to sell by Friday," and it's like,
Yeah.
"Damn, like, bro, like,
All right. Can we get an extension?
right. So I mean, there's that. Like, okay, how much time do you have on the deal? What's the access look like? Give me all the information on it, right? So we look at some of those things. Like personally, man, I'm not a huge fan of like lease back
Mhm.
situations, or depending on how long they are. I know as a buyer, like I'm not into that, buying properties where I can't work on it for 2 months because someone else is living there. You know what I mean? But it's just running your numbers, man. Looking at the photos, what's the access look like? What's my time frame look like? Things like that.
Mhm.
And in markets that are like outside of Texas that are more like disclosure states,
Mhm.
like, and you can look up and see what buyers are buying for all day. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a spread there, then let's go.
Mhm. And then so like if the numbers don't make sense, you try to give people feedback and be like, hey, like, numbers don't, it doesn't look like we'll be able to move
Yeah.
it at this price.
Yeah, I will. Well, I mean, and again, it's tough, dude, because what I'm, like I said, I'm pivoting a little bit right now because in certain markets, I'll take whatever just so I can put it in front of buyers and build that list because I'm building a well before I need it. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah.
So a lot of times, like you got to build a well before you're thirsty. So you can get that deal, put it in front of people, find the legitimate buyers. Once you start getting better deals, then boom, you can sell them in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know you mentioned, like when we're going through the process, if someone has a deal that like you call the person, do you do anything besides calls to get in front of buyers or to stay on top of mind with the buyers or to reach out to buyers first when building that relationship?
Yeah. What I will a lot of times it's like, to be honest, almost not I won't say order taker, but I want to understand like what your process is
Mm,
and how you like to get deals in front of you.
mm,
Here's the reality, man. Like these people are on so many people's lists and they're
mm,
getting emails like from everybody and their mom. And a lot of times they're and this is where I learned this. I mean, early on, there were times where somebody bought a deal. Like let's say like we ended up having to drop a deal like a long time ago, right? We dropped a deal and then somebody on our buyers list bought it. And I was like, bro, like I didn't know you buy this. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
So it's really like, how do you like to get deals in front of you? What your process is like. Oftentimes, before I put it up on investor lift, like I've got a VIP in certain markets, right? I got people
mm,
that I know are buying. I'll just put a quick text message together, and it'll be like address, bedroom, bathroom, square footage, year build, asking price, photo link.
mm.
Just all that stuff stacked up. And I'll just be, hey man, I got another one for you. Boom, shoot it out. And then, I'll follow up with them. I'll follow up with the call. I'm a call guy, man. I get you on the phone. Yeah, I can be annoying, man, but I'll call you.
Yeah, I'm the same. I always feel like it's faster. And then, yeah, you can just tonality is so much more. And then, yeah, if I do tax, acquisition side, whatever side, and just everything I do is just to get to that phone call.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it's just that, man. Keep it top of mind. Knowing who's buying, knowing what they're buying. As soon as you get something, I can't like in San Antonio, man. I'll get a deal in front of me, and I know exactly who the
Mhm.
5 people I'm gonna sell it to, or send it to you before I even put it on a investor list.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And then last thing I had for you, I know you mentioned a few times, and just to make sure we're not missing anything for the audience. When you mentioned VIP buyers, what makes someone a VIP buyer in your book?
Right. So that depends. The biggest thing, to be honest, is because I don't want to like flood my not my inbox, but flood my CRM with like VIP status people.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it's like if you bought a deal from me in the past.
Mm-hmm.
If you've already bought a deal, you automatically get moved to the VIP status. So I can shoot you a deal. Now there are some people that I'll put there without having that done. Like if you get really close on something and it's not your fault, the reason why we didn't do it. Like if I assign something to you and then like title issues happened and you had to move on to another deal because of the time value of money thing. Like I'm cool with that. Like cool, I'll put you on my VIP list because we got that far. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really, on that particular list, I just want people that I know that I can rely on.
Mm.
There's a handful of buyers that, like, to be honest, I'll go ahead and call them. Hey man, can you do this for this property? Give me a second. Yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, and then it could be a property that we're trying to lock up.
Mm.
And I'm like, hey bro, I got something that may be coming up. Because I'm not going to tell them I have the property because that's the transparency thing, right? Hey man,
Right.
I got something coming up. They may be coming up. It's this, it's this. Like, what do you think? What price point do you think? And he's like, oh bro,
Mm.
I'll probably pick that up at this price. Hell yeah. What price? Yeah, lock it up. Let's go. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And then we can kind of do it that way too. That's a
Right.
little. I wouldn't advise people to do that off the gate at all. Like
Mhm.
that's not something that I would tell anybody to really do unless you really have the experience to kind of handle the
Mhm.
expectations. But I mean, those are people I'm looking for. Reliable, your word is your bond type people.
Mhm. I love that, man. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on. I've gotten a bunch of great takeaways. I'm sure everyone else did as well. Super excited to hear you speak next week. I'm sure I'm going to get a bunch more takeaways there. And guys, again, June 5th, it's going to be almost less than a week when you guys are able to listen to the event. Man, come on down. We're giving away some free tickets for the podcast listeners. So I put 10 aside. Just use promo code VIP 2024. I appreciate you guys listening each and every week and tuning in. Really means a lot. And Steve, definitely make sure you go follow the Dispo King. Steve, where's the best place for people to follow you and connect with you online?
Yeah, best place is Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is at I am Steve Francis. I think Facebook is official Steve Francis, but you can find me. I'm all over the place. So, but
Awesome, man.
definitely the Instagram is at I am Steve Francis.
IFC Francis, perfect. And is if they reach out to you on there, say they have a deal, they want a JV, is that the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And then we'll do an intro call. We'll chop it up a little bit, learn about your deal, see if it may be something we can move forward on, and we'll make some money together.
Awesome, man. I love it. Any closing thoughts or final things you want to say to wrap it up?
Just real excited about the event, man. I think it's stacked with a lot of like powerhouse people, man. Like you, Bree, RJ, Cassie, I know Anthony. So it's gonna be a lot of fun, man. There's gonna be a lot of value. So you guys definitely don't want to miss this event. You guys want to be there. You're gonna hear something from one of us. It's gonna revolutionize your business. So keep your ears open and definitely show up.
I love it. Well, thanks guys again for listening, and we'll see y'all next week. Hey, this is Ky Logue. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I truly appreciate you. If you want more of this information and you want to see these actually recorded live, go ahead, join our Facebook group. It's the Real Estate Wholesaling Syndicate. It's right on Facebook. Google it, you'll find it. Type it on Facebook, you'll find it. I look forward to seeing you guys in there. We give a ton of free information in there, a bunch of free trainings, free courses. You get all the scripts, contracts, everything you need, A to Z, absolutely free. And I look forward to seeing you on the group.